My nephew slapped me across the face, and what he said after was even worse. When my 4-year-old nephew suddenly slapped me and said, "Mommy says you deserve it," I realized something painful. My mother had managed to poison even a child with her cruelty. My mother, Gina, always believed she was the funniest person in the room. She spent years doing open mic comedy in small bars and proudly called herself a professional comedian. The problem was that her humor usually came at someone else's expense, and most of the time that someone was me. Growing up, every embarrassing moment in my life became material for her jokes. If I made a mistake, she turned it into a story on stage. If I was hurt or humiliated, she acted like it was entertainment. Shame was something she freely handed out if it meant getting a laugh. The worst moment came at my engagement party with my fiancé Luke. His parents had organized a formal celebration at their country club. It was supposed to be a happy evening surrounded by people important to both of us. Gina arrived already drunk, wearing a flashy sequin dress and acting like she was the star of the event. During dinner, she grabbed a glass, demanded attention, and began an unexpected speech. At first, people smiled politely. But then she started telling a story about my mental breakdown when I was 19. Instead of speaking with compassion, she turned it into a performance, imitating my crying, describing my suicide attempt, even acting out the hospital scene on the floor. No one laughed. The room sat in shocked silence while she kept going, convinced she was delivering comedy. Luke's parents looked horrified, and several guests quietly left. Luke himself didn't even know about that painful chapter of my life. I had planned to tell him privately someday, not have it exposed as a joke in front of hundreds of people. That night damaged many relationships. Some of Luke's relatives began seeing me as unstable. Luke and I spent months in therapy rebuilding trust. Meanwhile, Gina refused to apologize. She insisted that comedy comes from truth and that I was simply too sensitive. When our wedding approached, she assumed she would give another speech. That's when I decided I needed to confront her in a way she couldn't ignore. A week before the wedding, I invited Gina to what she thought was my bachelorette party. I also invited many of her comedian friends. I announced that we would do a roast, where everyone shared stories about their parents. Gina went first and, predictably, mocked my childhood again. The room laughed while I sat quietly. Then it was my turn. Instead of jokes, I told the truth. I spoke about her alcoholism, about how she humiliated me for laughs, about the times she put her career above my safety and dignity. I told stories she had hidden, stories that showed the damage behind her humor. The laughter stopped instantly. The room fell silent as people realized the reality behind her jokes. Gina tried to laugh it off, but the shock on everyone's faces made it clear things had changed. Afterwards, she cried and said I had destroyed her reputation. I left feeling both powerful and strangely empty. Revenge hadn't brought the relief I expected. In the following weeks, our families pushed for honesty before the wedding. Gina eventually admitted she had been a terrible mother and promised she wouldn't cause another scene. I allowed her to attend the wedding, but under strict rules. No speeches, no jokes, no attention-seeking. To my surprise, she kept that promise. She sat quietly in the third row, cried during the ceremony, and behaved respectfully throughout the reception. Later, we began meeting for coffee once a week with clear boundaries. She started therapy and admitted she had used comedy as armor, laughing first so no one could reject her. Our relationship never became perfect, and I never forgot the pain she caused. But I learned something important. Protecting myself didn't require destroying someone else. Revenge felt powerful for a moment. Boundaries, however, brought real peace.